Larry Cleaver to give the command.
Drivers, start your corn ethanol-powered engines.
"21 Indy cars are fired and ready to take on this 7/8 of a mile bull ring. For further perspective about this race and this place, let's go down to the grid. And we start with Katie Hargan.
Well, that's what you're going to see tonight. 300 laps of guys going 180 miles an hour into the first turn on a little 7/8 bull ring. This is what IndyCar racing used to be in the old days, and guess what? That's what it's going to be tonight. A thrill show, 300 laps around Iowa Speedway.
Great stuff from pit road, ready to get going, and here is how they will start this event.
Well, look at J.R. Hildebrand up there. Terrific qualifying effort. Best of his career. Has a huge chance today. Right behind him, number 20, Ed Carpenter, his teammate and his team owner.
Watch out for the Mikhail Aloshin, the mad Russian. He's going to make moves. He's always exciting here. Tony Kanaan, he nearly won this race last year. Watch him to move forward.
Looking back further, Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon. If they get into action early, they could run the risk of going a lap down. They've got to stay clean on the first few laps.
And again, these guys at the back, Marco Andretti, he's a past winner here. Terrible this weekend. He's been all over the track complaining that he thought his car was broke. So he's really got to make some moves in the first stint.
6 onboards to give you spectacular views today, including the Lucas Oil onboard for James Hinchcliffe starting his 100th IndyCar race, and his teammate Mikhail Aloshin with the Aero on board. He's going to start on the outside of row 3. You got to keep an eye on Tony Kanaan at the start. The NTT data on board, he will start 7th. Graham Rahal has the Gale on board, starting in the 10th position. Ed Carpenter will have a Verizon on board. He starts on the outside of the 2nd row. And we have a great look for Ryan Hunter-Reay with Verizon streaming. Go inside IndyCar all season. Download IndyCar Mobile from Verizon. This will be good, won't it, boys?
Going to be terrific. I was at the drivers' meeting earlier. Nobody had fingernails left. They're all chewing on them. Everybody has high tensions.
Variable banking at this track. The bottom lane has less banking than the higher lane. Watch, a lot of guys are going to start going up the track and trying to carry momentum. You've got 3 lanes of racing here on this short 1-mile track. It's incredible racing.
Front 2 rows, 2 Penske's on the bottom side. Top side is the 2 Vuzzies Vodka cars with J.R. Hildebrand in the front. It's IndyCar from the heartland, Iowa Speedway. Let's go!
Graham Rahal moves high. He's going to go for the high line first. His car was really good in warm-up. You got 3 guys, 3 abreast back there with Pagano.
Watching everybody fan out. There is J.R. Hildebrand inside of Castroneves, trying to make a move. Castroneves has the advantage. Big wiggle back there. I think that was Marco Andretti.
Castroneves got the better of J.R. Hildebrand. Not the start that J.R. wanted. We have Will Power sitting on the front, followed by his teammate, and then both of the Carpenter cars.
That was Alexander Rossi, I believe, with big slide out of turn 4. Hunter-Reay, his teammates all over him.
And that's Ed Carpenter in 3rd position, so he got around his teammate J.R. Hildebrand. So it's the 2 Penske's with Power and Castroneves, then Carpenter, Hildebrand, and then Sato is the best of the Hondas running in 5th.
Already a gap to the back group here. These guys falling off the tail of the pack, and if you fall too far back, you will quickly get sucked up by the leaders. Graham Rahal on the high side on Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's moving forward, but Ryan Hunter-Reay is moving forward because he started way behind Graham Rahal.
We talked to Rahal this morning. He said the high line through turns 1 and 2 is good if you're way high. If you're mid-track, you're going over the bumps, and it's a handful, so you've got to pick low or high in turn 1. And now the ECR boys are going at it.
And Carpenter looking at his teammate. He goes to the low line. JR in the middle of the track. They say the middle groove is bumpy. The high groove is smooth. The low groove is smooth. So watch these guys move around. And as these tires wear, they're going to be trying to find any possible grip that they can get.
Scott Dixon has already picked up 4 spots from 17th to 13th. We saw Ryan Hunter-Reay. There you see him right there. He's just in front of Dixon. Hunter-Reay has picked up a few spots as well, running in 12th after starting in 15th.
Huge understeer from Scott Dixon across the apex of turn 1. You can see the car bouncing through those bumps, and the line is going to fan out as Alexander Rossi looking to the high side of Graham Rahal. Just going to say the line is going to fan out as the tires wear. The radius is going to grow in the corner. We ride on board with Kanaan, and you're going to see this all night long, guys.
That's a bucking bronco right there. He's riding a horse that doesn't want to go. And you see how far Pagano pulled away from him just in one corner.
Pagenaud in the bright yellow Menards car got around Kanaan. There's Kanaan back there in 9th. That yellow Gale car is Graham Rahal scooting up a little bit on the high side, and it's Rossi that's behind him. Now Rahal has the run on Kanaan.
A big run. He used the upper groove. Now he's on the lower groove, but he got a big run coming off of 2. Slides up in front of Kanaan, gets him loose, and the Lotion's now all over the back of Rossi's all over the back of Kanaan. He goes by easily.
And now watching Alexander Rossi looks incredibly strong. Don't forget, his engineer, Jeremy Millis, is the same guy that took Joseph Newgarden to a dominant win last year. If Rossi has the same sort of handling Newgarden had last year, he could be really tough.
TK's in big trouble. He's falling like a stone to the bottom of the lake. Guys are going by him like he's standing still. So you can see his hands in the car. He's so loose. Can he hang on to this thing, or is he going to be the first yellow, Townsend?
That was his teammate Scott Dixon blowing by. Now his other teammate, Charlie Kimball. Sorry, that's Joseph Newgarden to the low side.
And already we see cars being lapped. There is the leader, Will Power, about to put Marco Andretti, who's running last in 21st, a lap down. Andretti had a dreadful qualifying session. He was about 7 miles per hour slower than everyone else yesterday.
I was watching Marco. He made some moves on the start, got about 3 or 4 guys. He was up around Connor Daly and some other guys, and now he has fallen off the tail of the pack. His handling woes this weekend continue, but he is hanging tough, trying to keep that lead lap, stay on the lead lap. And these guys are so loose right now, Townsend. Anybody can crash at any moment.
Well, those first 2 laps, you can rely on the mechanical grip of fresh tires, but at some point, your balance or your balance deficiency is going to reveal itself, and that's the place that Marco Andretti's found himself right now.
Marco's basically got a mirror drive. He's got to drive wherever Will Power goes to try to keep him behind him, but Will Power's struggling to get by, so it's not easy. He goes to the high side, gets a nice run here, but I think Marco's going to slide up in front of him.
I think Marco's going to have to yield the position here if Power can stay high and smooth. Yeah, there he goes. Poor Marco Andretti, 285 laps left of what he's dealing with right now.
Marco's coming back, but look at Castroneves gets a big run. He's still monkeying around with Marco. Castroneves gets a big run on the pair of them.
As soon as Marco falls into the dirty air of another car, look, he's going to drop really fast. There goes Castroneves.
I spoke to some engineers last night, and they expect it to be very difficult the first 20 laps or so because of all the different rubber that has been put on the track from Indy Lights and last night from ARCA. Will Power has the early jump. Castroneves, Carpenter, Hildebrand, and Sato at Iowa. Helio Castroneves in that number 3 Hitachi car for Team Penske, moving past his teammate Will Power into the lead. We also saw Ed Carpenter challenging Power for second for a moment. Robin Miller told the story briefly during pre-race, but in case you missed it or for more, tell us where Helio might be racing next year.
Well, I think Tuesday, Kevin, Penske's going to announce they're going to run a Honda sports car program. And I think the plan is Montoya runs one car, Helio runs the other, then they both get to run the Indy 500 for Roger, and there'll be 2 other drivers they'll announce at another time. I don't think any drivers will be announced on Tuesday. When I was talking to Helio yesterday, I said, you're not driving like a 42-year-old. You got nothing but, you got 3 poles, you should have had 4. You're 37 points out of the lead. You're driving better than you ever have at the age of 42. And he said, I don't want to leave IndyCar racing, but I know I've got a job next year with Roger. I haven't been told where it's going to be yet. And he said, we never talk about it to the end of the year. The same thing happened to Montoya last year. They told him at the end of the season what they wanted him to do. So I think with Helio, his best chance, he said in our grid run, if he wins the championship, then it's a pretty tough decision, because not only is he one of the most popular drivers in the series, if he's the champion, it's hard to kick him out.
Hey, Robin, just with all that info you just gave us, since you're the super agent in the paddock, you think you can line up co-drivers for me and Townsend Bell with Roger's sports car team?
Well, I dropped Townsend Bell's name to Penske boys about that ride.
I could drive with Juan Pablo. I'm a little bit chubby like he is.
I really want you. I want you in a sprint car, PT. That's where you belong.
Well, we've been watching Mikhail Aleshin make his way up through the field. That's him in the red Lucas Oil car in 4th, challenging Ed Carpenter for 3rd. We knew Mikhail would be fun to watch.
Yeah, and Mikhail Aleshin's been quietly confident about his car the entire weekend. He kind of just smirked when I asked him, do you think you have a good race car? He just smiled and said, we'll be good.
Well, for Mikhail Aleshin, he's got to get to the end first. You know, some of the short ovals, he's been a little too aggressive too early. Looking at another guy who also thinks he has a great race car, and he's proven it. Graham Rahal, super fast in the final practice. He's been very quick, and he's always a good racer,
yes,
Paul.
Hildebrand now is falling back. He's back to 6th now. He's gotten, Rahal's gotten by him. Hinchcliffe is now right on the back of Hildebrand. But Castroneves is really kind of set sail. He's got about a 2-second lead on Power. Carpenter has had a hard time getting by Power. He made some moves on him, but couldn't get it finished. And Aloshin is the guy who's moving forward right now.
And this is Helio Castroneves, the leader, getting set to lap Carlos Munoz, who's running in 19th right now. And Munoz is the subject of our Chevy driver profile. Like so many, started karting when he was a kid, has many other interests, loves Spa, loves Senna, and this guy is a superstar in the right situation on big tracks. Second 2 times at the Indianapolis 500, another finish of 4th, I believe. And Carlos Munoz has been quick, but he and the Foyt team struggling again here this weekend. Connor Daly is just in front of him, his teammate in the green helmet, the other Foyt car. So far, it's Penske out front, 1-2, then it's Ed Carpenter, and then 2 Hondas running 4th and 5th at Iowa. NASCAR is on NBCSN. The Monster Energy Cup Series is live from the Magic Mile of New Hampshire next Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern. Last night, hopefully you were with us watching from Kentucky. Martin Truex took the trifecta, winning both stages and the race. 3rd win of the season. He's increased his series-leading playoff point total to 28, 12 more than Jimmy Johnson, as we watch Michaela Aloshin, who had just gotten by Carpenter, up to 3rd, now losing a spot to Rahal. Hopefully the NASCAR drivers, as we get set for them to go to New Hampshire, getting a Sunday off and enjoying this one here today like we are, Jan.
Yes, and Graham Rahal certainly is on a charge, and all the drivers right now are aware that the pit windows today are pretty wide. Look at how wide they are with your opportunity to pit. Now that's when you would need fuel. Every driver out there, and Graham Rahal is one that said, for example, I know I need to take care of my tires. Every driver doesn't have a perfect car now. We see a lot of loose race cars like Townsend and Paul we're talking about, but most of them are riding around. How far can I go before I stop on these tires? Because if I stop now and then there's a caution, I'm going to lose 2 laps. So it's a big gamble on this first stint. How long can he hang on?
You're right about that, Jan. It is a gamble. It's really a game of chicken. Who's going to be the first yellow? Because everybody's going to stay out unless their car is diabolical and you know you're going to wreck. That's the only reason you're going to pit right now.
The guy who's stabilized after all those handling problems is Kanaan. He's stabilized at 14th as we see Graham Rahal goes around the outside of Gutierrez.
So Graham Rahal has moved up 7 spots from 10th to 3rd. That's him in the yellow Gale car. Iowa Corn presents our biggest movers of the race. Ryan Hunter-Reay also in a charge from 15th to 8th. Last year was so frustrating for Hunter-Reay. He wasn't where he wanted in qualifying either. Scott Dixon, the championship leader, has moved up 6 spots. And last year's winner, Joseph Newgarden, has also moved up a few positions.
And Kevin, Ryan Hunter-Reay has been so frustrated with that car all weekend long, and what frustrates him most is he knows he can be fast here. He's a 3-time winner here, but he said since they changed the race to the daytime, he has not been able to find that sweet spot on the car, so they threw everything but the kitchen sink at it last night. He is a lot happier today as you see him charging through the field.
And he got 1 more spot up to 7th, got around Hinch just a moment ago.
Just watching the 2, Dixon and Newgarden. They're sitting in 11th and 12th right now. 11th and 12th for Dixon and Newgarden. And not much they can do, Paul. They're sort of locked into that dirty air, sort of frozen in position right now, probably just tuning on the car, waiting for the round of pit stops to see if that's a way to get track position.
Yeah, the most important thing for these 3 guys right here, Sato, Dixon, and Newgarden, is not to go a lap down, because Castroneves is lapping around at 19.5, and these guys are at 20.2, 20.3, so they got to be careful not to go a lap down. But there's Pagenaud just in front of them, so all these 4 guys are all championship contenders, and they're all racing each other.
Currently lapping almost 3 seconds slower, the field is, than a qualifying pace around here at Iowa. It's racing a lot like a stock car race in the middle of this tire stint. If you just hear how much off throttle they are in the corners, a lot of driving going on out there.
Well, you got to question whether these guys, when they do their first pit stops, do you go out and go hard and try to go fast, or you start out slow and conserve your tires? So as we see the onboard with Hinch,
let's just listen to the throttle.
Listen to the throttle on this car.
th career start for James Hinchcliffe.
Think about a little bit of wing.
And he's given feedback already. Lap 56, in the next 10 laps to 15, we'll see everybody hit pit lane. He's given some feedback now. You can see the understeer. You can see how long he has to hold steering in before he can roll the throttle back on.
Well, having a little bit of understeer is better than being snapped loose, that's for sure. So he's hanging on to his position. As we see Castro Neves, he's still trying to get by Carlos Munoz. He's been working on him for a long time. But we have a big crash in turn 2, and it looks like it might be a Lotion.
Oh, boy. We just talked about this. I said a Lotion. He's got a good car. He has to get to the end of one of these races. He was running 4th.
Yeah, guys. I'm sorry, but
Appears to be a one-car crash for Michael Lotion, as mentioned, was running 4th.
And
good to see he's okay.
About 20 laps ago, he had a big moment coming off turn 2. He got through a bump and corrected and hung on, but like we talked about, these yellows, it's who's going to get it first. Who can hang on before needing to come to pit lane for fresh tires, and unfortunately for Michael Lotion, he was the first man out.
We went to the drivers' meeting this morning, Townsend and I, and they said 60% of the accidents, Brian Barnhart said, happened in turn 2. That bumpy turn 2 is a big bump in the middle. As we watch Michael, he floats it into the corner, hits that bump, and it just gets loose. He buries the throttle to try to get it to spin all the way around. But it was going for the wall.
I like the commitment on the gas, though, man. He was going into the fence and still going to hold it wide open.
And that was his teammate Hinchcliffe there, who came by and came the closest.
Just looked like he had a nice big arc into the corner, and he went, Townsend, for the bottom of the track, and it just over-rotated and just. Once it got sideways, he buried his foot in the throttle to try to keep it from going up, just up to the wall, and try to get it to spin downwards, but it wasn't having it.
Great heads-up driving from Ed Carpenter there. You saw he was right on the fuel map switch, going immediately to save fuel under caution. Anything he can do for a little advantage, whether that's filling short on pit lane or being able to stretch these yellow laps a little longer.
Let's go back to Phoenix and recall what happened there with Michael Lotion. This was at the start of the race that took out a lot of people.
Didn't last very long here. Made one corner before he took out about 5 or 6 cars, including Sebastian Bourdais, who was on a roll up to that point, and Graham Rahal.
Outside. Oh, hold on.
That time he got out of the throttle, Paul. This time he thought, well, let me try the other way around.
Yeah, he tried to get it to spin down the track because it went loose pretty early, but it carried its momentum up, and he had the throttle going wide open, the tires spinning, but ultimately connected flat pancaked against the wall, tore up both sides of the car. The front and rear corner are pancaked.
Now, right before that crash, I was wondering if we might see someone dive in. How much were the tires giving up? But had you done that, you'd be in big trouble. You would be laps down. So none of the leaders had pitted, and here we go. Pits are open. Here they come, and we start with Anders Krohn.
It's been a pretty solid run so far for J.R. Hildebrand. No big comments for him. He's just going to add a turn of front wing, and he's going to be on his way with 4 new tires. Katie?
And Ed Carpenter was happy with the car in the beginning of the run, but it kept getting worse, so you can see them there adding a turn of front wing into that 20 car, Jan.
And no changes for Castro Neves or for Will Power right behind him, and easily Castro Neves gets out ahead of Will Power. Again, no changes for the Penske cars. They like how they're performing, obviously.
Graham Rahal comes out third. The two Fuzzies cars for Ed Carpenter Racing nearly together in 4th and 5th.
Just watching Carpenter and Hildebrand racing side by side. It's been like that so far all day. Owner and driver sharing the same piece of track.
Well, it's still Helio Castroneves out front looking for his first win in more than 3 years, and we're under yellow for the first time.
Hold on.
Under caution for the first time for a single car incident for Michael Lotion at Iowa Speedway. He climbed the car under his own power. We're about set to go back to a restart with Will Power chasing his teammate Helio Castroneves. I mentioned that Castroneves hasn't won since Detroit in 2014, but it's not because he hasn't been competitive. In that time, he's finished second 8 times, and on the podium 13 times. It has been the championship fight all 3 of those years. Next time by, we go green. Rahal in 3rd. Ed Carpenter in 4th. He's got the little yellow stripe on the Fuzzies car at the bottom, and then it's orange on the bottom for J.R. Hildebrand. The bright yellow car is Pagenaud in 6th, green again at Iowa Speedway, and Ed Carpenter going to the inside of Graham Rahal, trying to grab 3rd place.
Everything resets now. Brand new Firestone tires, big grip equals big confidence. This is your chance to make some moves.
It's a pretty spread out restart. Guys got single file pretty quick. I was expecting some more action. These restarts, the yellows breed yellows, but these guys are back up to speed right away as Ed looks on the inside, way high up the track. It's Graham Rahal using that top line to carry momentum down the straightaway. Ed pulls ahead at the bottom, but as you see, he's going to have some momentum as he gets him clean there.
So Carpenter gets the spot, moves into 3rd ahead of Rahal. Let's check in with Robin.
Hello, Mikhail, you're running 4th. You made a great save a few laps before you spun. Tell us what happened.
Well, I had a really loose car all day, and I was just holding for my life there all this first stint, and I don't know how many times I showed my saves, but it was almost every lap. And then suddenly, at the last lap, I just, it went, and I just couldn't do anything. You know, it was just impossible to react.
Well, we're glad you're okay, kid. Kevin.
All right, thank you, Robin. Tough one for Mikhail Ocean and Schmidt Peterson Motorsports. They've still got James Hinchcliffe in the running in 10th.
Ocean's learning the hard way. You're not going to beat a loose car on a short oval all day long. You got to make changes on pit lane. You got to get to pit lane first, Paul.
Yeah, Carpenter guys are coming back. J.R. Hildebrand again, just like his teammate Ed, making moves on Graham Rahal on the bottom. Graham is trying to hang tough on top. As we see, J.R. slides up in front of Graham and pinches him off. So he got the position away from him, just like his teammate. Exact same pass.
So Rahal falls back to 5th, right behind the 2 Ed Carpenter racing cars, and it's 2 Penske's up front. Let's get more details on what everyone is doing. Iowa Corn takes us through the field, and we start with Jan.
Yes, and of course we start with Elio Castro Neves, who made no changes on the pit stops. He has loved his car in the evening practice, and of course, when you really love your car is when you're here in clean air. Right behind him, Will Power, who looks now more racy. Even though they didn't make any visual changes on that pit stop, you can change the tire pressure if need be, Katie.
As the stint went on for Ed Carpenter, he felt like he just didn't have the power off the corner to make the passes. And on that first pit stop, they made the changes, and you see it's paying off already. Anders?
Yeah, and it looks like that turn of front wing really helped J.R. Hildebrand. He's charging through the field, just got Graham Rahal, and is now fighting with his team owner Ed Carpenter here, Jan.
And Graham Rahal, you saw him, and he continues to run the high line. And Townsend and Paul, when you get it back, when you run the high line, you tend to not use as much of the tires up. So I think this might be Graham's strategy. Stay high, save the tires.
Ryan Hunter-Reay has been so frustrated with this 28 car all weekend, but not today. He's finally found the sweet spot on the car with that stuck front end and not compromising that back end, and he's charging through the field from starting 15th. Jan?
And Simon Pagenaud was very loose early on. They made changes on a pit stop, and guess what? Now he says, I have a big push, meaning the car won't turn in the corners. Now sometimes it'll loosen up, but he's done everything he can in the cockpit. Still too much understeer for Pagenaud. Joseph Newgarden, of course, hoping to repeat after his victory last year, but just hasn't been able to have the race pace. This is surprising. We would expect that with the knowledge that he has in the setup, that we would see Joseph Newgarden moving forward, but so far, he doesn't have the setup that he needs.
And so far, Takuma Sato doing everything that he needs to do. Only an average finishing position of 17.8 at this track, so he just wants to keep it clean, get good points for the championship. Katie?
Anders James Hinchcliffe is making his 100th start this weekend at Iowa Speedway, and he says the thing he's learned over his 100 starts is patience. He does not let a bad stint get him down, and he'll charge the way through the field at the end of this race. Jan?
Scott Dixon also hopes to charge his way through the field, but he knows he is one of the teams that knows how much downforce the Chevys had, and now he has a Honda. He says, we're giving up downforce and drag at this racetrack. We're just going to try to hold on and do the best we can.
Tony Kanaan was not happy before his first stop. They took out 2 turns. The front wing did a tire pressure adjustment. Now he's on the charge. Jan?
Max Chilton, first time that we've seen Max today. Remember, he loves this racetrack, having won here in the Indy Light Series, But again, the Ganassi team was a little bit on the back foot, having not tested here, and he hasn't really been able at this point. Remember, this is a long race. He can still get tuned, but at the moment, he's chasing speed, Anders.
Alexander Rossi's been complaining of a loose car all day long so far. I spoke to his strategist, Rob Edwards, and he said we're stacking in all the wing that we can.
Great job through the field, getting us up to speed through 14th.
And Ed Jones is in 15th, and remember, he's driving with a broken foot, but the one thing that he's glad is it really doesn't matter here at Iowa Speedway. He's making his best start of his career, and then move back to Carlos Munoz. He's having an extremely frustrating weekend. They just feel like they haven't been able to hit the setup at any of the tracks today. He's just trying to ride it out. Anders?
Esteban Gutierrez may only be running in 17th, but I spoke to his spotter earlier, Todd Fields, and he said a win for this team today would be just finishing all 300 laps.
Charlie Kimball and the 83 team just feel kind of lost this weekend. Remember, this is the first year that Chip Ganassi Racing has this Honda Aero kit, and they're looking forward to next year. Then move back to Marco Andretti. He was really fast in practice on Saturday, then went out with qualifying, and they were just confused on what happened with the speed. They thought it was maybe a bad set of tires, but Marco still frustrated today. Anders?
Yeah, and with Connor Daly, it's been another weekend of frustration so far. Couldn't manage those bumps in turn 3 and 4. That's the root of the issue for that ABC supply team. So they're going to work throughout the course of this race to try and figure it out. Up to you guys.
Great work all the way through the field of the 20 cars still running for a moment. It looked like we would have a challenge for the lead. Will Power got right on the tail of Helio Castroneves. Helio, though, stretched it back out, as you can see there. In the white and black car, that's the leader, Helio Castroneves, about 6 car lengths in front of his teammate, Will Power. And again, we're going to see lapping coming up. Now, the tail end of the field got their lap back during the yellow, but now they're soon going to go a lap down again.
Look at Graham Rahal making a move there to the inside of Ed Carpenter. So Graham Rahal saving those tires with the high line. He saves it for the low line when he needs it on the pass. You heard Jan Bikas talk about that earlier. It's a great point, tire management.
He did a classic slide job right in front of J.R. Hildebrand. He went down low and cut up right in front of him. So he's, even though he's coming in on the low line, he goes straight back up to the high line and cuts the air off the guy in front of him.
And J.R. Hildebrand is coming. Looks like he might have something soon for the Penske's. He's right behind Will Power. We'll keep an eye on that. Position changes, including a lead change. J.R. Hildebrand going to the front. Right before that, though, we saw Ryan Hunter-Reay start at 15. He's all the way up to 5th, and this is his latest move.
Goes inside Ed Carpenter. Nice move. Tucks in behind Rahal there and does such a good job here, but can't say enough for J.R. Hildebrand, Paul. That's the car, number 21, that Joseph Newgarden dominated with last year, and Ed Carpenter Racing hasn't lost a beat with that setup. He's looking very strong.
J.R. Hizzy was making some moves during the commercial break. He got both of the Penske cars. Nobody's been able to touch these two all day. Now he's leading his first laps of the year, and he has set sail. He's 2.2 seconds ahead.
And that bodes very well for the end of the race, because now we're 15 laps out from the round of pit stops, maybe 20 laps out, and if JR is that strong when things are getting tough, he's going to be really hard to beat.
As Paul said, Hildebrand is stretching things out faster each lap. Now that last lap, Castroneves and Power were on pace with him, but more than 2.5 seconds now in Castroneves, who is trying to hold off Power, Rahal, and Hunter-Reay, not too far behind.
And I just spoke to Brent Harvey, the strategist for J.R. Hildebrand's car. Now, I asked him what is just so special about these Ed Carpenter racing cars around this track, and he would just said, it's just a great setup, and smiled. Wouldn't give me any more information, guys. He knows he's got a rocket ship.
And Will Power just got around Helio Castroneves for second. They're chasing that guy, J.R. Hildebrand. It's the 3rd time he's led this year. 2 big ovals, Indy and Texas, and remember, he finished 3rd at Phoenix on the other short oval.
And looking back slowly but surely, Joseph Newgarden keeps inching up. Started 16th, he's now up to 7th. He's the guy that was behind the wheel last year with that dominant performance, and now he's starting to get the handle on his Penske Chevrolet. He could make it to the front and join his teammates here.
He's got some tough guys to pass right in front of him that are going to make it really difficult for him with Carpenter, Hunter-Reay, and Rahal. Those guys are using the high line, and they're going to make it tough for him to get by, but he is definitely moving forward, but you got 3 really, really tough guys to get by.
Fitzgerald glider kits the sponsor, and I think the only other time he's had that this year was at Barber when he won that race. We saw Juan Pablo Montoya running that scheme, and we've also seen it in their NASCAR program for Team Penske this year.
Well, he's flying around here like a glider right now. So smooth on the throttle, really smooth line, working the high side, and Ed Carpenter appears to be struggling right now.
And coming up behind is Joseph Newgarden, and it's very interesting to me when you're the driver who dominated the previous year and you know the setup that you like, that he has not been more competitive here. I asked him how much of the Ed Carpenter setup, as he goes by his former team owner, how much of the Ed Carpenter setup is on this car and how much Penske? He said, well, we tried to go with a hybrid approach. I tried to take the things that I liked from Ed Carpenter Racing last year and incorporate it with Penske. At least when the practice started, he liked it. But right now, that hasn't translated to speed.
Well, it's tough to do that, Townsend, when you take a setup that is so good and then you try to adapt it to another setup and don't have everything as a complete package. You really can screw it all up.
Well, nothing looks wrong with the way Newgarden's performing right now. He's up to 6. He's tied with Hunter Ray for the most positions since the start as we go on board with Hinchcliffe.
Hinch is going to make a move on Carpenter here, even though he's a little bit loose coming off the corner. I saw that wheel snap a little bit coming off of turn 2. And but he's looking at the high line to try to get a run on Ed right here.
We're into the 10 laps of terror right now, guys. This is the range where a lotion couldn't hang on.
Whoa,
and there's another terror moment for him.
That's exactly what I said the lap before. He came off a 2 and it snapped out from underneath of him, and that one was even worse. So he lost some ground to Ed.
This type of racing is so fascinating because just because you're quick at some point, as we watch 2 NTT Data Ganassi cars going at it, Dixon in the 9, Kanaan in the 10. That's a battle for 10th position. You can be good at one stint, and you can be really bad a few laps later.
And you're walking a tightrope here if you're Tony Kanaan or Scott Dixon. You can see another car struggle, and it's so tempting to make a bold move in that moment, but you're also hanging on, and it can let go at any second on you.
He's also got to be very, very careful because he knows this is his teammate, his best buddy, and the championship leader, and he knows that he's got to try to help Scott as much as possible, and that's how this Ganassi team works. This team works a lot for Scott, but Tony Kanaan got by clean, but he definitely has to be careful around Scott.
At the same time, Tony Kanaan, one of the most experienced drivers in the field, he's driving for his future. Robin Miller, what do we know about Tony Kanaan for next year?
I don't know that we know anything other than we think that the NTT Data sponsor is probably going to go to Scott Dixon's car, since obviously it's hard to replace Target. And Kanaan, he's just like Castroneves. He didn't want to stop, but there's not a lot of places for him to go. And when you've been with Ganassi and you've had some success with Andretti, you know, come on, you don't want to just make a lateral move or go backwards. You want to keep going forwards if you can, or at least keep the same kind of ride. I'd say, you know, he probably needs to win a race, just like J.R. Hildebrand does. I think you win a race and people look at you and say, well, that guy's still pretty fast. Maybe we'll find a place for him.
He's chasing Simon Pagenaud now for 9th. He just got his teammate Scott Dixon for 10th, and look at that, they touched.
And that's exactly what I was talking about. You got to be really careful around your teammate. You touch that wing up against his back tire, and you could cut down Scott's tire and break your front wing. So these are the things you got to be really careful about when you're dealing with your teammate and your championship leader.
On board with James Hinchcliffe.
Something I wasn't very good at.
I was going to say, coming from the ultimate team player. Oh, good stuff. Ed Carpenter slots down into 8th now. Newgarden up to 6th.
Our Chevrolet driver update. The leader in a Chevy, J.R. Hildebrand. The top 3 are Chevys. Newgarden in 6th, and Carpenter and Pagenaud also in the top 10.
JR, you think we're good, but I can't stay with guys. I know.
JR's lead was almost up to 2.9 seconds when Castroneves was leading. Power has gotten by and closed that gap down to 1.8. So Power is kind of closing the gap slowly.
We're getting close to getting to pit stop range once again, and the tires are starting to be an issue. Simon Pagenaud looking at him, and this is his radio transmission just a few minutes ago.
Leaders at 19.2s in the open. Yeah, I know, Kai, but the problem is destroying the right front at a speed that's incredible. Copy. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying we're not losing anything, so just take your time here and we'll get through this stint. You're doing fantastic.
Of course, he's being coached from pit row, but what he's referring to, guys, is he has had a vibration. On the first stint, he had a vibration. What they thought was on the right front, that vibration has returned. They're coaching him, saying your speed is good, but doesn't feel so good for Pagenaud right now.
Sounds like, to me, Townsend, like they've got maybe too much toe out in the front, and the right front is getting a vibration. It's scrubbing that inside tire, and then they're scrubbing that outside tire, and just tires can almost go egg-shaped and vibrate really bad.
They can, and sometimes you can pick up a little pickup and cause the vibration, get it out of balance. And you see guys sliding all over the place as Will Power's working traffic.
Yeah, lots of traffic to deal with here. Up front, that's the leader, J.R. Hildebrand in the green Fuzzy's car. The silver car is Will Power in second. Helio Castroneves is third at Iowa. As you saw on Nonstop, we've just gone caution at Iowa Speedway for the second time, and it looks like there's some wing damage for Carlos Munoz, who rolls down the pit lane. J.R. Hildebrand remains up front. Then it's Will Power, Helio Castroneves, Graham Rahal, and Ryan Hunter-Reay.
See a little scuff mark there,
Oh, yeah.
Paul. Might have got into the wall at the exit of maybe 2 or 4.
I don't think he might have. I think he did for sure. He's up in the gray and white walled it and broke the front wing, so. It's up on that high line, just a little bit too high, but Graham Rahal's been using that line up there effectively all day, so.
That's a big enough hit to where you might want to check right side suspension.
Yeah, steering arm could be bent or broken. Toe link in the rear, they're going to roll it back, so it looks like something there is not right.
Askew. Look at all the concrete coming out of the wheel.
And Munoz was already running near the back. The car had not been nearly quick enough this particular weekend, and they're already 3 laps down as we continue under yellow. And the yellow once again comes as people were ready to pit. Now, we did see one under green. Takuma Sato did come in, but none of the leaders had pitted for the second time.
Yeah, that really killed him. That'll lose you 2 laps. As we saw Carlos's car, they moved it over close to the wall. The reason they did that is they're getting it out of the way because they know pit stops are coming next lap, and they don't want to be in the way of everybody and working on the car at the same time. So that's a nice gesture by the 14 to just do that for these guys that are going to pit here in a second.
And we heard Pagenaud's anxious radio. If I'm on the box, I'm going to coach my drivers, hang in there. Someone will make a mistake, yellow will come out. Here they come.
And guys, J.R. Hildebrand was very happy with that 1 turn of front wing. He's going to add another half a turn of front wing for fresh new tires and be on his way. Katie?
And Ryan Hunter-Reay was battling some sort of tire issue during that stint, so they were debating on just how much front wing to take as you see the team going around for 1 full turn of front wing, Jan.
And for Will Power, they're debating whether and they do go for a little bit of front wing at the 6.7 stop. He got all the Sunoco fuel, but he loses a couple spots on the pit road.
It's Helio Castroneves getting out ahead of J.R. Hildebrand. Will Power comes out third. So Castroneves picks up 2 spots on pit road. Hildebrand, Power, Hunter-Reay gains 1, Rahal, Hinchcliffe.
I'll tell you what, these Penske guys, you cannot beat their guys in the pits. They are always, Townsend, consistently about a second quicker than all the other crews. Most of the time, guys are in the 7s, 8s. These guys are consistently in the 6s.
And that's a big advantage of having that pit out location from winning the pole at the most recent race. Castroneves will be the leader when we restart at Iowa. They're going to wave off the restart. Not packed up enough. They'll go 1 more time around.
How many times have we seen a restart waved off with Castroneves at the front of the field?
He definitely likes a fast restart and a fast start. He spreads them out, so keeps him under less pressure, spreads the field out a little bit, allows these guys not to get too racy with him. Hunter-Reay's always ready on these restarts. Watch him. He's making a move on Will Power big time. So, but Castroneves is way out front.
By the way, Ed Jones also pitted with Sato. He is a lap down. rolling back through it. It's Castroneves, Hildebrand, Power, Hunter Ray, and they're dodging for positions. It's Power going to the high side for seconds.
Once again, all these guys go from hanging on and praying to being up in their seat and charging. This is the time again, making positions on fresh tires.
Hunter Ray, Graham Rahal, Hunter Ray, Graham Rahal, side by side, all the way around the corner. They're going to go all the way down the front straight, and Graham gets some position on Hunter Ray.
Further back, we saw Pagenaud and Carpenter. Still see them side by side. The bright yellow car is on the bottom side. Ed Carpenter up top. Pagenaud will grab that position. That is for 8th.
Doesn't look like J.R. Hildebrand is as strong on fresh tires, but he knows if he makes it to the end of the stint, that's where he really makes his money today. Graham Rahal right up in the back of Hildebrand, and here comes Kanaan.
I think if Hildebrand's going to win this race, I think you've got to anticipate there's going to be a late caution, and you're going to need to be racy on a green-white checker type finish. So he's definitely got to get his restarts down a little bit better than that.
Wow, Ed Carpenter washing through the back of Tony Kanaan up ahead. And he's really still struggling to figure out how to get the speed that his teammate has.
Carpenter's already lost 2 spots on this restart as we watch J.R. Hildebrand in the green Fuzzies car. The yellow Gale car is Graham Rahal right behind him. They're battling for 3rd position.
Chevy has pretty much dominated this race with Penske and Carpenter up front, but Graham Rahal and Ryan Hunter-Reay have steadily been coming forward to spoil their weekend. So look for these guys in the Honda crew to maybe have a chance at winning this race. They're both pretty strong on the long run.
And just back from Rahal, there's a pretty fierce battle with Hunter-Reay trying to hold off Joseph Newgarden, who continues to press his way to the front. Newgarden working the high line there in 1 and 2. His 2 Penske teammates are up front. I think he's got the car to be there, but he's got to be smart through traffic.
Look at dominated this race last year, excuse me, Paul, and really dominated 2 years ago, finishing 2nd.
Look at Pagenaud, he's up to 8th again. He was complaining viciously to his team manager, Kyle Moyer, on the radio how bad he was killing the tires as he's making a run on Hinchcliffe right here. So he is stabilized again, so let's see if his tires hang on for the complete run.
New tires mean everything. Fresh Firestones a couple of laps ago. Elio, the fastest lap of the race, 177.3 miles per hour. It's about a second quicker than what they were running before the stop as we go on board with Hinchcliffe, looking back to Pagenaud. Hinchcliffe at 7th.
Tony Kanaan just back there behind Pagenaud. He is well clear of his teammate Scott Dixon. It's not been a good day for Dixon at all.
And here we're riding on board with a Honda, and that's a Chevy in fierce pursuit. And I'm told from an inside engineer, team engineer today, that if you trim a Honda to the same drag level of a Chevy, you're going to lose 200 pounds in this body kit configuration, 200 pounds of downforce. But it appears to me that the Hondas have everything for the Chevys today. They're right up in the mix.
Well, these 2 guys right here are running 2 separate lines, low line and high line. So it's a tough for Hunter-Reay. You saw the air get cut off of him by Graham Rahal as Newgarden makes a run along the outside.
Newgarden can't get him that time, but he is lurking for 5th position. Hunter-Reay in the yellow DHL car. The black and green car is Joseph Newgarden. Can't get him on the low side that time.
Remember at Texas how brave Joseph Newgarden was on that restart. He went 3 wide, high, and straight into the fence. He knows he's got to make smart decisions today. He's got a fast car, not even halfway yet, just at halfway, excuse me. Joseph Newgarden's going to work his way to the front as best he can.
Well, he's got to not put it in the fence like at Texas if he's going to stay in this championship. That really hurt his points, so he's got to make a smart decision here. Hunter-Reay's been working on Rahal for probably about 80 laps and hasn't been able to find a way by.
Now J.R. Hildebrand starts to close on the 2 Penskes as we get into the tire wear scenario. J.R. Hildebrand has the strongest car, clearly. And I think as we get deeper into this stint, he should be able to make the moves on Will Power and Castroneves.
Yeah, for sure, Hildebrand's got a long-run car, and it looks like the Penskes are faster in the first 20 laps. The Penskes are really quick, but then they fall off. So this Ed Carpenter car seems to have better tire longevity, and we've seen with these Penske cars, Townsend, places like Phoenix, they run into tire trouble quite often.
Well, they appear to work their right front tire pretty hard on the short ovals. They had issues last couple of years at Phoenix on the right front. Saw Pagenaud complaining earlier about a right front vibration or blister.
Well, we had Juan Pablo leading here comfortably and blew a front tire and went in the wall a couple years ago. So, it could happen again.
The front three have checked out a little bit. That's Castroneves, Power, and Hildebrand that you can see. And then it's about 2.5 seconds before you get back to Graham Rahal, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Joseph Newgarden, and James Hinchcliffe.
Way up top, Graham Rahal. He's the highest guy on the track. Comes off a turn 2. It looks like he's going to run into the wall every time. He's so high up.
Well, we see that in every oval with Graham Rahal. He just peels off the apex early. He demands a lot of the right front on exit, but he makes it work, and he's won that way before.
So the track temperature is down about 13 degrees from where we started. It's still 90 degrees. We've had a little bit of cloud cover. How much more racy might that make it here in the second half of this race?
I think it's good news with cooler track temperatures for guys like Ryan Hunter-Reay. I think he felt good with his race car last night. So as the race goes on, I think it favors some of the guys who've had the handling in the past races that were nice night races here at Iowa.
As you see, this is the hottest one we've had. 11th time racing at Iowa Speedway for IndyCars. This track designed by Rusty Wallace and has been a favorite in IndyCar. And we're going to see lap traffic come into play again very shortly for Castroneves and the leaders.
You know, we're only just over halfway at 162 laps at 300, so we got a long way to go. You've seen some of the racing we've had up front, lead changes, comers and goers, guys going forward, guys going backwards. We're only halfway into this thing.
And I think, Kevin, you make a great point about track temp. We have cloud cover now, and that's going to drop the track temp quicker than any of the teams would have anticipated. They would have mapped the track temp drop based on just ambient projection, but the cloud cover is really dropping the track temp fast.
Look at that move. Quickly dispatching of the lap car of Connor Daly. Castroneves going to the low side and taking no time. See how quickly Power and Hildebrand can get around Daly, who is now 3 laps off the pace.
Next up for Castroneves with lap traffic is going to be Sato, Ed Jones, and then Marco Andretti.
Now, while Castroneves is working through traffic, he got a radio call from Roger Penske saying, take care of your tires. So that's just what you want to hear when you're trying to lap cars and trying to keep a consistent pace. But you can see he's running a little bit of a higher line, and when the captain calls you and says take care of the tires, that's not just for the sake of the balance, that's for the sake of the longevity. If you're trying to work a little different strategy, if you can run a little higher, as we mentioned, we saw Graham Rahal do the same thing. Save those tires. It gives the captain more options when it's time to make a pit stop.
And Paul, that's not a suggestion, is it?
Well, that's a smart suggestion. That's from a guy who knows and seen a lot of oval racing over his lifetime, knows. And when they come in, he's seen the tires and letting Castroneves know, hey, open up your line a little bit. Don't use the tires so hard. He's had 2 stints already where it's fallen off real bad. So let's see if he can keep it hanging on all the way through this run.
Castroneves working his way through lap traffic. He leads by 0.7 of a second on willpower. Stay with us. Non-stop fans here in Iowa. Great race fans enjoying a good one tonight at Iowa Speedway.
Welcome back to the Iowa Corn 300 live on NBCSN. You saw during that non-stop Connor Daly made contact with the wall. As you see, J.R. Hildebrand, the first to pull into his pit box there. His team owner, Ed Carpenter, just has no drivability in the car. They've been putting turns into the wing. Now they're going to take him out. Jan?
And at the far end of pit lane, Castroneves and Power come in at the same time. We're going to watch the front wing to see if they make changes for Castroneves. He's been, a slight, that's more than a slight change. And he and Power get out about the same time and maintain their positions.
And Hunter-Reay jumps up to 3rd, that yellow car. Then it's Hildebrand. Then it's Rahal.
Hildebrand loses 2 spots, but that's because I think they added a little front wing. Castroneves added front wing, looking for some more front downforce. There's a tipping point, though, there, Paul. If you just tip it over, all of a sudden you'll go loose.
Yep. Power here had a close moment a little bit ago. He got passed by JR. He stuffed it down the inside. JR started coming down. He whitewashed across the back of him, went up into the gray, was probably on the brakes. And then we see Connor here just go skating up the track. Barely gets into the wall, kind of rubs the wall. Ooh. Light contact. He came on the radio and said, I can't drive this thing anymore. What do you want to do?
That looks exactly like his teammate Carlos Munoz.
Yeah.
Crashing earlier.
I wasn't sure before whether Connor just brushed up and really got out of it or actually hit it. He slapped it pretty decently. So he made a pit stop under this caution, our 3rd of the day. but Charlie Kimball stayed out. Last pitted on lap 135, so he is the new leader.
Well, these guys on fresh tires and him on old tires, he is going to get absolutely swarmed. So this could cause issues for these lead guys, because Charlie is a guy that fights hard now that he's in the lead, so he's going to try to fight as hard as he can, but with the amount of laps on those tires, I don't think he might be a problem, well, create a problem for the other guys.
He's going to try to make it on one more stop, which means he'd have to go to lap 230. So to your point, Paul, this is going to be a miserable attempt at the lead here.
Let's check in with Jan.
And while there's a lull in the action, we want to give a shout out to Dave Reininger. You can see that there is a banner up top, King Dave, longtime spotter in the series, and has won the Indy 500 with both Dario Franchitti and Tony Kanaan. Very well liked in the series. He's battling cancer at the moment, and I've had multiple crew members come to me and say, just make sure that he and his wife, Laura, are aware that the IndyCar community, their thoughts and prayers are with you.
Thank you, Jan. Very friendly fellow. One of the faces we've all come to know, and people we've come to know in the IndyCar community. So we're thinking of you, Dave. Hope you're watching this evening.
Something happening here with the Dale Coyne car struggling to stay under pace car speed. So
that's Ed Jones, and we're told he made a mistake on the lap down wave around. So he's going to probably just drag it around and try to correct it on track before he's penalized.
He is crawling right now, but yeah, he's just trying to simply let the field go by. Here comes the field. The pace car driven, I believe, even this weekend by Sarah Fisher. She's been doing it on a full-time basis. Charlie Kimball, as mentioned, did not pit. Then there's Castroneves, the leader on the standard pit strategy, followed by Power, Hunter-Reay, and Hildebrand.
And Charlie Kimball should be thanking Ed Jones right now, because that probably forced another lap of yellow or two, which only shortens the stint that Charlie Kimball's going to have to hang on to make it to just one more stop in this race.
I wonder if Sato did the same thing on the wave around. He's going awfully slow. As we see, the guy who's made a good recovery right now is Kanaan. He's up to 7th. He was down to 14th or 15th at the beginning of the race. He's on board right here. He's made a recovery. He's moving forward. So he's behind Rahal now and Hildebrand.
All right, we've talked about the captain. Let's hear now from the captain, Jan. Tires on ovals.
Well, you got to open up your line. You can't dive it down at the bottom and put a lot of load in the front tire. You got to really just kind of do what Graham Rahal's been doing. It's open up the line, not use the tire as hard. So it's that's the key to keeping that front tire.
I'm trying to sit here and figure out how 83 Charlie Kimball can make this strategy work. Everybody's going to have to pit one more time, and on this restart, Paul, he's going to drop like a lead sinker on the older tires. So
well, I think so. I think he's going to cause a lot of problems for the guys that are on the fresh tires. I mean, we've seen some races here where we've had some late race cautions in places like Texas where guys have gone for new tires, and you're so much quicker than the guy on old tires. So
we've had a great weekend of motorsport on NBCSN, and we'll do it all again on the NBC networks next weekend. CNBC has live coverage of Formula One, starting with the British Grand Prix Sunday morning. Then the Cup Series is in New Hampshire in the afternoon, so that shifts us to CNBC. You can actually watch us twice next Sunday from Paul's hometown, Toronto, live on CNBC, and then again here on NBCSN right after the Cup coverage. All 3 champions crowned right here on the NBC
I remember a couple years ago when Hunter-Reay won here on a late race, fresh tires. So here we go for the restart.
In turn 3 right now. What will new Firestones do? Everyone has them behind Charlie Kimball. Kimball in the black and green car leads them back to the start. Then it's the Penske's. Castroneves, Power looking up to the top side. Hunter-Reay and Hildebrand are also in the mix.
Like I said, Charlie's a tough guy to pass. He'll fight you very hard. Castroneves knows he needs to make it short work of him, and hopefully he'll hold up the rest of this pack behind him. Castroneves has a run. He makes a move down the front straightaway.
Kanaan back there got another spot. He's up to 6th. He went around Hildebrand. And now to the lead, it's Helio Castroneves. Will Power is going to try to follow.
These guys have had history together. They don't race very well together, but Power gets by clean. Now Hunter-Reay is moving forward on on the black and green car.
And this is where it's so hard for Kimball. As soon as you fall into dirty air on those old tires, it becomes twice the handful. Now he's just getting swamped. Graham Rahal, Tony Kanaan all over the back. Look at Kanaan making a move low.
That was a big time loose on entry, and he's loose coming
Whoa,
up. There's a car on the outside. Hildebrand, a big move on the outside.
And
Here comes
Kanaan
Newgarden.
going to lose more with Newgarden coming by. So whenever you have to lift or have any kind of moment, you lose all kinds of momentum.
He got loose on entry, and then it stepped out when he turned in, and then in the middle of the corner stepped out again as Hildebrand rounded around the outside of him.
Side by side with Hinchcliffe. Now Kanaan wants to fight back, get back up to the position that he just lost.
Cut the air off of Hinchcliffe, and as soon as he did that, you saw Hinchcliffe get loose, and look at
Charlie hanging on.
Hildebrand to the inside of Kimball. Newgarden to the inside of Kimball. Newgarden has been so strategic today, just picking one off here, one off there. Now Kimball trying to fight back, but I don't think he'll be able to.
And there's Kanaan back there. He slipped back to 8th position. And Hinchcliffe on the high side, and they go 3 wide for a moment. Hinchcliffe right in the middle is going to squeeze through. Kanaan coming back side by side. Remember this at Texas a couple of weeks ago. They were side by side. That did not work out very well.
I'm looking out the window right now, Paul, to see if it's a full moon, but I just see clouds. I don't know what's going on out there.
Weaving back and forth. They're almost touching wheels again, just like Texas. Kanaan is now clear, but Hinchcliffe is fighting him with everything he has to try to get by Tony Kanaan. He dives down the inside. Kanaan cuts the air off of him, and you see him skate right up the track as soon as he did that.
Tremendous urgency right now for a lot of these drivers to make moves happen, because as soon as you get into the tire wear, it sort of locks into position, and they only have one more stop, one more chance for a big, brave moment on fresh tires.
Pagenaud trying to get Kimball for 9th. That battle between Kanaan and Hinchcliffe was for 7th. Kanaan holds on to it for now. Well, I mentioned that battle that ended up 3.
And that crash chewed up close to $3 million in IndyCar spare parts. Charlie Kimball's hanging on, just had a huge moment. Now he's fallen into the clutches of cars that are lapped down. I gotta think that it was a mistake, Paul, to not take tires on that last stop. It would put you at the back of the field if they changed their mind, but he could have come charging back through. Let's watch what happened as he works the backside of Pagenaud.
Bill, big loose on entry, so his rear tires are gone. As soon as he turned in for the corner, the back end stepped out, and that is not any fun.
We saw Marco Andretti behind him just a moment ago. Marco has fought back onto the lead lap, so he is the last car on the lead lap for the moment.
And think about this, we're only at 195. Kimball's gonna have to hold on to this mess for another 35 laps to make it on one more stop and make that strategy work.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's spitting a little bit of rain. I don't see much above us, but there actually are raindrops that are hitting on pit lane at the moment. So that could shake things up.
Well, it has changed significantly. We did not have a cloud in the sky when our broadcast began today. Now we have clouds, and there is some darkness in the clouds above the Iowa Speedway.
And now
yellow flag. So
whoa! The memo didn't get to Hildebrand. He almost came into the back of Rahal. Yellow for moisture. Maybe that's why everybody was so urgent. Some of the teams knew that we could have rain.
So Castroneves at the yellow is the leader. Just about 2/3 of the way through. Power is second. Hunter-Reay, Rahal, Hildebrand. For those of us that live in the Midwest, this is not surprising when something pops up that was not expected.
I live in California, but I think that's bad when you look at radar. Not sure if that's just kind of the light shade. If you look
No,
at
that's
the
not
legend,
necessarily that bad.
I think red is bad.
Red is bad. I think we still have a good chance of being able to get this one done.
All right, fellas, I want you to look who's in 10th place in his very first oval track race.
Yeah.
10th place. They had Ed Carpenter, Scott Dixon, Alexander Rossi. I tell you, Gutierrez is doing a hell of a job. And what can you say? Dale Coyne's team's overachieved all year, and I think this is a pretty good example of it.
Well, we haven't covered him all day. He wasn't even on our tongue, but that is an amazing job for this Formula One driver. This is his first oval race, Townsend.
And let's not forget who the race engineer is, Craig Hampson, who led the championship early on this season with Sebastian Bourdais. So that's a powerful combination.
I talked to Esteban last night. He's really enjoying this season. Scott Dixon, our most recent first-time winner. He's the championship leader. Was by a significant margin coming in, 34 as they run. His championship lead is just 1 on the leader, Elio Castroneves.
During the break, these are the drivers who pitted early, and the biggest surprise for me was Joseph Newgarden, who pitted from 6th position. Jan, what do we know?
Well, let's find out. Need to pay early, don't you think, guys?
Big time.
Well, it's spitting pretty hard. You saw the raindrops coming down there, so the track has not gotten wet yet. But some big black clouds around and big heavy raindrops.
But what this forces somebody like Joseph Newgarden to do is you're going to have to go big on this restart, and it got away from him at Texas. So he's going to have to be careful.
Paul, see if you can make contact with Graham Rahal.
Okay, let me check.
Hey, Graham, it's Paul Tracy. You there?
Hang on 1 second here, boys. We're on the wrong channel here. We're trying to get Graham Rahal's radio channel.
Trouble here in the booth, you're putting the 3 of us in charge of technology. That's not going to go well.
Well, let's try this. See if we can get Ed Carpenter. Ed Carpenter is Townsend Bell from NBC. You got me?
I got you, Townsend.
Ed, we see you. I don't hear you, but if you can hear me, Ed, what are you looking on this restart? Some guys took fresh tires behind you. You did not. Why did you decide to stay out?
I think I was supposed to come in and miss the radio call, but I think it'll work out. Hopefully we get a long green stretch here, and you know, we'll have to do one more stop, and we'll be in good shape.
Your teammate JR's been looking really good on a long run. It seems like you're struggling just a bit. Were you guys able to make any changes on the last round of stops? You feel like it's coming together?
It is a little better after last stop, but it's just haven't really been able to get it where we want it. Looks like we have a weight jacker that's failed, so that's not helping, but we'll keep that on.
All right, buddy, hang in there. Good luck.
Ed Carpenter running 9th right now. We saw those, and the red flag is being displayed.
Well,
so maybe the rain is coming down harder. It's an interesting dynamic. We've seen sunshine. It's still 90 degrees, but still spitting. And the pace car is leading the field down onto pit lane. And we are going to see a red flag in just a moment. I'll say this, good for fans, because we're going to see more racing.
I don't think this is a bad call because the laps go by so quick here under yellow. I mean, you can basically take 30 laps away just waiting for these raindrops to go away. So we'll wait till everybody gets to a stop here and then see if we can get on the radio now with Graham. We've got our radio situation sorted out here. I think I'll try him right now. Hey, Graham, Paul Tracy, they just went red. Can you hear me? Graham, Paul Tracy up in the booth. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, PT.
Well, you're pretty racy today.
You've been stuck in between 3rd and 5th, and just haven't been able to bridge the gap to the front 2 guys. But you think you got something here for once track cools down with this cloud cover?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think our car is pretty racy. It doesn't have the speed, certainly of the Penske cars and of Hildebrand off the restarts, but you know, we've been able to keep up here. I think where we're good is on the really long run. The struggle is following Hunter Ray and Power and Elio all day. They've found a way to run pretty high and take away my lane there. So, you know, I'm unfortunately a bit of a one-trick pony down in 1 and 2. I can't run low, so you know, it is what it is.
Well, they're certainly not running anywhere near as high as you've been. We've been watching you a lot, and about 4 or 5 times I thought you were going to hit the wall on the exit of 1 and 2. You're up so high, but it seems like it's using the tires less because on the long run your car seems to come on in the last, you know, 5 to 10 laps of the run.
I mean, they're not as high as me on the very, very, very exit, but that's where I have to go to try to get some air. If you try to cross the wake to the left, you're going to lose the rear end. So, you know, they just run the high line from the entry till about 3/4 of the way through, and that's what makes it tough, because I pretty much have to hang on to the rear of the thing until they give me a little gap up there up top. But look, I mean, you know, the Gale guys have worked awfully hard today to give us a competitive car. It's an important thing with where we are in the championship, and you know, let's hope that nothing strange happens here with the strategy those other guys just took, and you know, be able to finish this thing off.
All right, good luck the rest of the race.
Thanks, brother.
Well, an interesting opportunity now to really have for the team some time to talk to their driver and us to talk to the teams. John Boslog with the Penske team. Thank you, Robin, and maybe you can hear that nice sound in the background. Engines have fired and will restart in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us from Iowa Speedway. Well, as you see, cars are rolling off now, and we will
brushes the wall, and then we had some big raindrops, so instead of running under yellow, we decided to stop here, and we're going green again, guys.
Back at it with Castroneves, Power, Hunter-Reay, Rahal, and then Hildebrand looking to the bottom side, trying to grab 4th position over Rahal. Can't get it done right there.
Hildebrand had a bad stop. He lost a couple positions. They can't afford that on this last stop. They're going to have to nail one. They can't afford to lose 2 or 3 positions on the final stop with only 40, 50 laps to go. So look at these two guys, the full moon. These two guys are at it again, Townsend.
Further back, it was 3 wide as the cars that elected to take fresh tires are pushing hard. There's Joseph Newgarden making a move on Carpenter.
And in front of them in his first oval race ever is Esteban Gutierrez running in 8th position. That's Newgarden going to the bottom side of his former boss and getting around Ed Carpenter. And that is for 9th.
Tell you what, Gutierrez is holding his own right behind a guy who's got so much experience, Tony Kanaan. The best thing for him to do is just sit there and watch and try to stay in your position, because this is a phenomenal race for him.
There we see Newgarden going around Gutierrez, now up to 8th position. So Joseph Newgarden knows he needs to make moves now.
Well, that's fresh
while the tires are prime.
Yeah, fresh tires against used tires. So these two guys, again, like Texas, they are tied together and they have some history together. So watch these two guys fight as Newgarden closed the gap on them immediately on those fresh tires.
Already up 4 positions to 8th, now working on Kanaan for 7th. But Kanaan is going to take a look to the bottom side of the aero car of James Hinchcliffe.
He pushes up, he got some aero push. Newgarden got a nice run, so he'll dive down the inside. Man, I think that was a good call by Cindric to take those tires. Look at how loose Tony Kanaan is.
Newgarden was in 6th position when they pitted him off strategy for fresh tires. He's now up to 7th. 1 more position, he'll be back to par with 25 lap fresher tires on the top 5 cars.
And with Kanaan, you also see what happens when you attempt to make a pass and it doesn't work. You lose all your momentum, and then you likely lose positions.
The only guy that's been able to make this work, Townsend, is Newgarden, because everybody else, Pagenaud, everybody else that came in with him has really not been able to do anything with the traffic.
Well, the problem here is you're pressing very hard if you're Joseph Newgarden, and you're actually going to wear the tires a little quicker because you're trying to force it in the moment. He almost has Hinchcliffe there. They'll be side by side down in turn 3. There goes Newgarden. Now further back, Scott Dixon is struggling to make those fresh tires work. He's sitting in 13th position and hasn't been able to charge through like Newgarden just did.
Well, he's been in 12th to 13th the whole race from the start. He has not even made any progression at all. He hasn't fallen any further back, but he's really gone nowhere other than 11th, 12th, and 13th the whole race in this NTT Ganassi car.
Look at the championship. I mentioned this earlier. Points as they run. It was 34 coming in. Now it's within 1 as Castroneves leads. Dixon trying to work on Ed Carpenter. One of the others that picked up new tires on that stop, Simon Pagenaud, has picked up 4 spots. He's running 10th.
You're talking about Scott Dixon. I spoke with Mike Hull, who of course is on the radio to Scott Dixon during the break. He said they're struggling with a loose car, in that in the early part of the stint the car is very loose, but if they tell Scott to wear out the front tires, then he gets the car fairly neutral. So he actually tries to work out the right front tire to take some grip out of it, and then he gets his balance back.
And how you do that, Townsend, you drive into the corner, you just oversteer on the front tire, you jerk the front wheel down and force a push into the car.
But you can't do that on entry trailing off the throttle. You have to crack the power just slightly, get the weight on the back, and then put the steering wheel in. It's very, very tricky, and only a guy like Scott Dixon with the experience knows how to do that.
1 more spot for Simon Pagenaud, now +5 since the restart. Goes around the former Formula 1 driver Esteban Gutierrez to get into 9th.
Gutierrez still hanging in the top 10. Rossi recovering now with that slightly different strategy. He's up to 11th. He was down in 14th, 15th the whole race long, so he's closing in on those fresh tires on Gutierrez.
Meanwhile, up front, 0.7 of a second is the lead for Helio Castroneves. Looking for his first win in 3+ years. Can he get it done here this evening? Will Power second, Hunter A. Rahal, and Hildebrand. And here's Gutierrez from Twitter with some thoughts, and he has had a great attitude. It's been fun to have around.
And that was after his first day testing here at Iowa. Big respect for these folks, and he's showing big respect for the conditions today. Hasn't made any mistakes, taking everything he learned earlier in the race and applying it for later on.
He said he loves how technical you have to be, how much you can help with the car and help your lap. It doesn't seem like it. Seems like it's an engineering exercise, but there's clearly much more to it.
Kanaan has closed back in on Hinchcliffe. Newgarden has got by these guys and just taken off down the road as we see the fresh tires of Pagenaud now as he's going to try to make a move around the outside of Kanaan.
Oh.
Kanaan moving around very similar like Texas. His car darts around a lot, so over under for Simon Pagenaud there.
Remember at Texas, strong words. There's Pagenaud.
He didn't like that little move over hip check going into turn one, and then he had to cross him over, so he's like, gave him a salute like, hey, what's up, man?
Kanaan had the ire of the whole IndyCar field after the Texas race. I remember Hinchcliffe's quote. I loved Ganassi. Chip Ganassi had criticized Hinchcliffe. Hinchcliffe said, that's adorable. That's Simon Pagenaud expressing his adoration for Tony Kanaan.
One-handed driving at nearly 180 miles per hour on less than a 1 mile track.
I keep watching the lap times, Kevin, for Joseph Newgarden to see if that fresh tire advantage is paying off. Right now, I'm not seeing much of a dent being put into J.R. Hildebrand as Pagenaud goes to the inside.
Pagenaud's also got those fresh Firestones, and he's working his way up through the field. Now in 7th, Newgarden is the next target.
Newgarden is way up the road on Pagenaud now. He was much quicker on the restart and getting through some traffic. But how about this guy? Helio Castroneves, he's been lots of pole positions, but he's kind of gone backwards in the races. But today, he's been at the front the whole race long. So is this the day that you finally break through, Townsend? It's almost like winning your first race again. When you go this long without winning a race, you have to start questioning yourself. Is it ever going to happen again? Can I win a race? Am I too old? You know,
well, especially
if he gets this win today, I think it'll open the floodgates again for him with more wins.
I agree, and he's done just such a good job, Paul, the last couple of years to get himself fast again. When Will Power showed up on this team 5 or 6 years ago, it really put a shadow on Castroneves. He doubled down, he worked extra hard, he studied the data, and now he's as fast as anybody on his team or in the field for that matter. And I have to think that all those rumors of the sports car opportunity or maybe the sports car decision Roger Penske's going to make for him is giving him extra motivation today.
I'll tell you what, for him to leave the series, even though he is the oldest guy, it will be a huge blow to the series, a big hit in terms, he is unquestionably the most popular driver in IndyCar racing and the most recognizable at this time and the most fan-friendly of any of the drivers out there.
And put me on the list of fans that wants to see Helio Castroneves continue full-time. And to clear up the speculation isn't necessarily that they think that Helio is done. It's more possibly a matter of maybe we only want to run 3 cars in IndyCar and we might need a big-name star to help anchor along with Juan Pablo Montoya, the new sports car program.
It'll be a hard decision to make. Right now, he's the championship leader, and if he finishes this season and wins the championship, pretty hard to take him out and move him into sports cars.
Well, I believe that if he did go to sports cars, I can't believe we wouldn't see Castroneves at the Indy 500 for many years to come. That was Graham Rahal sticking a nose in on Hunter Ray. Had to back out. He's going to pay for it here as J.R. Hildebrand makes a position. That's for 4th.
Hildebrand not really moving forward like he was in the beginning of the race. This is laps are winding down here quite quickly.
And look, guys, at that black Penske car, that's Joseph Newgarden, has now caught up to Graham Rahal and J.R. Hildebrand.
So right now we know tires are everything now at this stage of the race. Fresh tires, whether you've done 5 or 10 laps, fresh tires are everything.
And the other thing for Newgarden that I like with the strategy, guys, is that this allows him to go much deeper for the final stop, which is insurance against pitting under green. Some of these other cars, like your leaders, they're going to have to stop earlier, and if they're forced to stop under green and Newgarden can stretch it and catch a yellow, that's going to be huge.
Well, we've seen a yellow at the end of every stint. As you see, Graham Rahal comes back on J.R. Hildebrand and slices down the inside. He slides up the track, washes it out in front of him, so that was a tough pass there.
Meanwhile, up front, Castroneves continues to expand his lead almost 3 seconds now on Will Power. Another 3 or 4 tenths back to Ryan Hunter-Reay. Will this be the day for Helio Castroneves? Swirling rumors about his future. Wants to put it back in victory lane and might have the car to do it at Iowa tonight. Nearing 50 laps remaining at Iowa Speedway. Anytime you pit, it will be the last pit stop of this 300 lap event. The Iowa Corn 300. Thanks for joining us on NBCSN with Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy, Jan Beekes, Katie Hargett, Anders Krohn, and Robin Miller. I'm Kevin Lee. A lot of side-by-side action as we continue with Scott Dixon going to the low side of James Hinchcliffe.
James Hinchcliffe does not want to give it up, but this is the situation as we just saw. We saw J.R. Hildebrand pit early. If a crash happens, he's 2 laps behind.
He's toast under that situation. Now, Scott Dixon has about 25 laps further he can go than James Hinchcliffe. So now with that pass right there, Scott Dixon has the opportunity to close with Joseph Newgarden, who's on the same strategy, and Simon Pagenaud. So Scott Dixon 6 seconds back right now, but he's got clean air.
These two guys have been tied together the whole race long. Ryan Hunter-Reay and Graham Rahal. They've been racing basically since the green flag. Castroneves has a commanding lead, the biggest lead of anybody in the race at almost 3 seconds right now. His car is working very well. He's taken that advice from Roger, save your tires, don't use them hard, and it's paying off as we see the Ed Carpenter come in for his stop.
Little trouble with the left front tires. Ed Carpenter's off and away. Your leader, Castroneves, is on pit lane.
So we've seen both of the Ed Carpenter racing cars make their stop. First Hildebrand, then Carpenter. Here comes Castroneves, and that's Hunter-Reay coming right behind him. Also Hinchcliffe getting set to pit.
Castroneves is taking his sticker Firestones and Sunoco, and we not expect any changes, no changes up front. That's a quick one, but the time from when it was dropped off to Jax to when he left, he definitely lost some time.
Well, it was still an 8-second stop, so it was slower than their normal stuff, but still quicker than Hunter-Reay.
And we have Tony Kanaan coming into the pits. He's going to put 4 fresh tires on. No change to the front wing plan there on that 10 car.
Graham Rahal also going to stop on the same lap that we'll see Will Power also. So we'll watch multiple stops as Will Power makes his way on. Graham Rahal has been happy with this car. He has been tuning it. And again, we've seen him running the high line to try and maintain that tire life. Will Power has the long drive down at 50 miles per hour to his pit box. Now, anytime you go a lap longer, theoretically, if you have a really good in-lap, you might be able to make up a position. Now, we know that Castroneves was over 8 seconds. So can Will Power get less than 8 seconds? Oh yeah, that's 6 seconds. So theoretically, he should pick up track position with that one.
Only needed 43 laps of fuel did Will Power to make it to the end as Hunter-Reay goes racing by.
The guy right now who's your leader is Simon Pagenaud, who was on the radio with his team saying his car was handling terrible as he peels off and comes to the pit lane. Now Dixon is your leader.
I'm really surprised Joseph Newgarden came to pit lane as well. These guys pitting a little earlier than I would have thought.
Simon Pagenaud now making his stop, and I agree with you, Townsend. Very strange to see that Joseph Newgarden chose that lap to pit. Behind him, you can see the front wing change for Simon Pagenaud and the stop for Scott Dixon.
Now, meanwhile, J.R. Hildebrand, of those that have pitted, is in front of Helio Castroneves. Let's go back and look at Joseph Newgarden's stop.
Looked like a nice clean stop for Newgarden. The reason I was surprised is if you stay out, you might get lucky with a yellow and put the whole field a lap down.
A little bit of front wing on the right front wing of watch these two Ganassi cars go by each other here. Chilton was leading for a slight moment.
I'm guessing that Tim Cindric and Newgarden decided it would be better to be on the same tire strategy as far as not losing time with older tires. Get in and get them, but you're right. That's one other play. Here's Chilton pitting.
And right now, we show Hildebrand ahead of Castroneves on track, which is really a big move.
All this cycle right now, I think Hildebrand's going to come out the leader because right now he's ahead of Castroneves. So Kimball and Andretti are the effective leaders right now. But Jan?
And yes, why we watch Max is stop here as well, Max Chilton. I do agree. I think that slightly slower stop, but you can see even Max Chilton, they're pulling off some very fast stops here when they don't need necessarily all the fuel. Castroneves should lose a bit because he was slightly delayed on exit.
And there is the effective leader of the race. He's going to get around Charlie Kimball, who has not made his stop yet. But there's Helio Castroneves. Can he use the Kimball pick to get back in front? This is essentially a battle for the lead, and now it will be. Hildebrand to the bottom side.
Castroneves backed off of that. He saw some danger and backed off of it. He had a run at him. Charlie peels it off to the pit lane. But Hildebrand's got a little bit of breathing room. He had some traffic there, Townsend, but now is the time that he has got to hang on till the end of the race. He's got the clear road ahead. He's got to use this traffic and use it the right way and keep this 42-year-old behind him.
That was the move, I believe, for JR to win this race. He had to be bold. He needed to do something and take a risk to get around Kimball because he has the strongest car over a long stint.
Marco Andretti is officially the leader, but effectively it's J.R. Hildebrand. Marco will be pitting very soon.
Helio Castroneves' car looks really strong right now. He's able to pull right back up on the back as JR goes around Gutierrez. But right now we've got Rossi right there in front of Hildebrand. So there's got some traffic right here with these Andretti cars.
And Paul, I think Castroneves has to push right now. He can't afford to let Hildebrand get away on a long run.
He just got the nose. He got the nose chopped off of him from Rossi. He went down the inside, and that was just bad timings. He went down the inside of Rossi, and Rossi turned in on him. That really cost him.
Marco Andretti up ahead.
But he's coming back.
Marco's on old tires.
And Castroneves goes around Andretti, and he's back in front. Hildebrand will move to second. They've been dealing with lap traffic, and Helio back to the front, looking to win for the first time in over 3 years, and he has no more stops to go.
JR Hildebrand's got to regroup now. He has the car for the long run. He just needs to slot back in. Now we've got Newgarden pushing Graham Rahal.
Rossi does not want to go a lap down. He's going to make it really hard.
Graham Rahal almost in the fence.
Running in 6th right now. And that's going to allow Newgarden an opportunity. That's Newgarden coming on the low side. A little wiggle for him. Can't get him right there. Working their way around Ed Jones. Down multiple laps. And up front, Castroneves up by 8/10.
He still can't get by Rossi, so Rossi's making this really, really hard work to stay on the lead lap, because if it goes yellow, Castroneves gets a nice run here, but he definitely made it hard work for him.
Castroneves is really gapping Hildebrand well here. He's built over a second lead, almost a second and a half now.
What a story this would be for Helio Castroneves. We thought maybe 2 weeks ago it would be his weekend at Road America, starting on the pole for the 50th time with a quick car and quick teammates all weekend. Here, we felt it would also be a strong opportunity for Team Penske. So many other contenders, and Castroneves is now up by 1.3 seconds on J.R. Hildebrand. Another 3 seconds back to Ryan Hunter-Reay, and Will Power, who was battling Helio all race, is now 5 seconds back in 4th.
I'm amazed right now with the tension building, Townsend, that the guys are getting more frantic, their passes are getting more aggressive. We haven't had any cars crash into each other, and I would not be surprised if there's a late race yellow where somebody gets together with somebody and maybe make a shootout for the end of this race.
On board with Ed Carpenter trying to hold off Ryan Hunter-Reay. Look at Hunter-Reay's trying everything. Coming in high, crossing over low, trying to find some clean air. Where's the grip?
And Ed Carpenter, after challenging up front early in the race, is now a lap down, so that's not for position. Hunter-Reay runs in 3rd.
6 second stop for Power, really lost him positions. It's hard to believe he had a 2 second pit stop advantage on Castroneves, but came out in 5th place, 4th place.
Here's Will Power, a contender much of the race, but he's losing ground to his teammate Castroneves, now 5.5 seconds back. Here's Newgarden still working on Graham Rahal in the yellow car.
A think that's Graham Rahal yelling at the slower car of, I think that's Ed Jones in front of him. Gutierrez, excuse me. I think that's what Graham's wanting, is for Gutierrez to move out of the way. The officials will use the blue flag with 20 laps to go to move traffic out of the way.
There's Marco Andretti making that final stop. He led for a little while off sequence before Castroneves and the others got by him.
Yeah, I think the problem for Graham, it's like he said himself, he's a one-trick pony. He's only got one line on the track, and that's the super high line, and the cars come up to the wall on the exit and cut off his air, and he can't get a run on these guys.
It is Gutierrez right in front of Graham Rahal as Newgarden looks down to the bottom side. Will he try to use a pick? Will Power, fourth place, not too far in front. Rahal taking a peek. Can't get by Gutierrez, one lap down.
See Rahal, as soon as he tries the bottom line, Townsend, he's just really got nothing.
Well, he's pushing as hard as he can. He knows that he has a strong car, but if he can't get past lap traffic, he just can't factor, and he's losing time with every lap, currently 7 seconds back of the leader, Castroneves.
So you look at length of time between wins. Helio Castroneves, third on that list, 54 races since his last win. It was at Belle Isle in Detroit in 2014. Since that time, he's finished second 8 times, 13 times on the podium. Will this be the day? And it would also move him right on the brink of Scott Dixon in the championship. The only thing that's eluded him in his illustrious career. Right now, he is 6 back, and there would be 6 races to play.
Right now, Scott Dixon is the points leader by 1 point over Helio Castroneves. So Scott Dixon is somewhat recovered from early in the race, right currently 9th. But he's hanging on to his points lead by 1 point as we see Hunter Ray slices down in front of Ed Carpenter.
And that puts Ed Carpenter a lap down. Hunter Ray in third. Hildebrand's about 4 seconds up the road.
How fortunes have changed for Ed Carpenter. So strong. But we heard that radio transmission early. I know it looks like I'm pretty good, but I just can't keep up with anybody. And he's a lap down.
Watching the gap between Castroneves and Hildebrand, it was 2 seconds. Now it's down to 1.6. So Castroneves trying to work lap traffic, having a little trouble with Charlie Kimball there. And there's Hildebrand with Rossi, I believe, in between.
It is far from over because, as we have seen, things change so much throughout a stint. You've got lap traffic to deal with. If we have a yellow, everything starts. But what do you call it, the 10 laps of terror?
Yeah.
We're going to get towards the later stages.
Well, if you had a yellow right now, I think the 10 cars on the lead lap, several of them would consider taking tires because lap traffic will get shuffled to the back. JR doing everything he can. That gap's now grown back to 2.2 seconds. So Castroneves looks pretty untouchable in clean air.
We have a late race yellow, Townsend. I think everybody would take tires. We've already seen how effective they are, so I don't think you could gamble on not taking tires.
That's what Helio Castroneves does not want to see. You do not want to take a chance on giving up track position. If I see the leader pit, I think I'm probably going to do the opposite if I'm behind him.
Unless you're the 10th car on the lead lap and you're going to go to the lead with track position, I might take that gamble. As Hinchcliffe working hard on the back of Scott Dixon, that's for 9th.
Scott Dixon needs to hang on to this position because if he loses this spot, it's going to give up the points lead. So he's going to fight as hard as he can, and I will guarantee you he knows that from his team that he has to hang on to this position to keep the points lead.
Hinchcliffe with a little bit of run on Dixon.
Dixon running high, leaving clean air low, so Hinchcliffe just kind of runs it in hard, takes the low line, and then just deals with it middle off the corner.
Inside 10 to go at Iowa Speedway. Helio Castroneves continues to stretch his lead by more than 3 seconds now. Team Penske also poised potentially for their first win at Iowa Speedway.
If he gets across the line with the checkered flags, there's going to be a lot of tears flowing out of the eyes of Castroneves, and you can guarantee he'll run straight for the fence. So let's hope he can hold it together here for the next 8 laps.
Well, it'll be well earned. He's driven flawlessly today. That track temperature now down to 107 degrees. It's cooling fast, and it really seems to advantage Castroneves. He's going faster and faster than Hildebrand in second position.
Cars are spread out now for him. He doesn't have a lot of traffic, so he can take his time. He's got a nice gap built up, almost 4 seconds now, and he doesn't have a lot of traffic, like I said, so he can afford to take his time now and not make any mistakes.
Elio Castroneves has led well over 2/3 of this race. 211 laps led today. We saw a similar beatdown by Joseph Newgarden, even more so last year. James Hinchcliffe led well over 200 laps back in his win in 2013 here.
Just watching those bright red gloves from Castroneves. The car looks very well balanced, a lot of precision in the hands, just driving to the limit of the front tires, not trying to force anything as Roger Penske looks on.
I'm looking at the times right now. He's got Andretti in front of him. Andretti's running a 19.1 and Castroneves a 19.5, so he really doesn't even have to pass him. He's got a big healthy lead now. It's down to 3.2 from 3.9, but he doesn't really have to push the issue now because the pace is kind of evened out for everybody.
3.5 laps to go for Elio Castroneves. That's J.R. Hildebrand, more than 3 seconds behind. Under 3 now for Spider-Man.
You know, ever since Penske asked him to conserve tires, he's been working the high line, staying off the bottom, giving the tires a break with the longer radius, and it's really paid off.
I think this win will mean a lot for Roger Penske, too. He and Elio have a very special relationship. They've worked together for so many years. Castroneves is a lap and a half away from breaking the drought.
His lead now at 4 seconds over second place.
And we're poised for our 9th different winner of the season. Graham Rahal and Joseph Newgarden are still going at it for 5th position. White flag for Elio Castroneves. Under a mile to go to win for the 30th time in his career. On the backstretch, J.R. Hildebrand is nearly 4 seconds in arrears. Castroneves, 2 more turns to go. Checkered flag, win number 30. It snaps a more than 3-year drought, and Castroneves squarely is in the championship hunt.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to climb the fence. It's been a long time. Woo!
Great drive, Elio. Hell of a job, guys. Great job.
You dominated them today, bud.
217 laps led, and Elio Castroneves wins for the first time since 2014.
I wonder if he can remember how to climb.
I think he can remember how to climb, and like I said earlier in the race, I think this is going to open the floodgates again for him to start winning again, because like I said, when you go a long time, you start to question whether you can get the job done anymore, and he certainly got it done today. His team said you dominated. I would expect him, it's going to be a showdown between him and Dixon the rest of the year.
The championship difference is 8 points right now, but that's not on the mind of Elio Castroneves. It's winning for the first time in 3 years. Listen to the crowd.
Well, he said on the radio the one thing he wanted to do was find a fence to climb, and it is the first time since Detroit 2014 that he's had that opportunity, hugging the Penske car for the first Penske win here at Iowa. Elio will let you get your... Here come the teammates, Simon Pagenaud. This is a close-knit crew. They know how long it's been for Elio, and they knew this day would come at some point. Win, go celebrate. He's done a lot of that already. Robin?
Well, RP, you finally won at Iowa, and you did it with an old man.
Well, I'll tell you. And he surpasses Rick Mears on the all-time win list. You're watching NBCSN's coverage of IndyCar, brought to you by Honda, an official vehicle of the Verizon IndyCar Series, and by and grade motor oil. Make the grade. Helio Castroneves is still working his way to victory lane. Celebration just paused for a moment, and it will resume here at Iowa Speedway. Don't forget, right after we're done, we're going to Indianapolis for Red Bull Global Rallycross. GRC coming up right after we're done, just after 8 o'clock Eastern here on NBCSN. Back to Jan. Indianapolis 500. We've still got plenty more to go as we watch Helio Castroneves climb out and celebrate a win at Iowa. Now more on today's Iowa Corn 300. Here's Andrews Crone. Autographs in the background. Well, the day, though, belonged to Helio Castroneves, celebrating his first win in over 3 years. More to come from Iowa. The podium celebration is underway at Iowa Speedway. Red Bull GRC from Indy is coming up in just a moment. Helio Castroneves on the top step for the 30th time, his 15th season with a win and his 18th season with Team Penske. What a show we saw today, guys.
I'll tell you what, guys, Castroneves said he needed a win to decide what his future could be. And I'll tell you, these two other guys on the podium, Hunter Ray needed a good result, and J.R. Hildebrand also needed a good result. So a very well-deserved podium.
Slice of happiness for all there.
9th different winner this season in 11 races. And Helio now is within 1 of Paul Tracy and Will Power for the all-time win list. And here's how they finish up today.
And look at those 4 Penske drivers finish strong. They moved to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in points with Dixon leading. So the Penske freight train making the run down the final stretch.
Tony Kanaan and Scott Dixon swapped positions to help Dixon in the points. Ed Carpenter was good all day, and then for some reason we don't know, he fell backwards in the last stint. But Gutierrez, what a run by him in the coin car. Amazing finish for him in his rookie race.
That's what I was talking about with the Penske guys stacked there. And how about Graham Rahal, a one-car team hanging on to the big boys with arguably a great shot at Toronto, as he mentioned, trying to back up the Detroit double wins.
Will Power picks up some points. Of note, it's 54 points available in a race weekend. He is 53 back. Also should point out that Helio Castroneves now 12th alone all-time, along with Paul and Will Power. Dario Franchitti has 31 career wins. We're off to Toronto next weekend, 3 o'clock on CNBC, with a re-air right after the Cup race on NBCSN next Sunday afternoon. Well, a very significant day today at Iowa Speedway. Team Penske had never won. More notable, Helio Castroneves, one of the all-time greats, had not won in 3+ years. He got the lead early on his teammate Will Power and led 217 laps, giving the captain his first win at Iowa. And we see Castroneves climb the fence for the first time since Detroit in 2014. The party will continue. Thanks for joining us from Iowa Speedway. Congratulations to Helio Castroneves.